अभी हुआ नहीं, अभी होने वाला.
This is fun, है ना? But
अब start हो रहा है.
तो okay.
Okay, how live it?
Should I start?
Yeah, let's start.
Why should this?
Just put it back. There.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video session presented to you by the Happy Check Programming channel. So today we are going to be doing a coding comparison of Python and Go. Go is a new language that has been made by Google, and it's a very powerful language. And we did a part one of this series a couple days ago, and part one was done as a video, and it is saved as a link, and the link shows up in the description of this live stream. So we urge you to take a look at that first before. And now in part two, we are doing a live stream, and we'll be covering four very important items. We'll start out doing functions, then lists or arrays, and then we'll move to maps or dictionaries, and finally we'll do classes and structures. So hopefully with these four items, we all or you all should have a good understanding of how the two languages differ and how they work. All right, so without further ado, I'll hand it over to my buddy here who will type out the Python code. Take it away.
Okay, so we're gonna start with functions. So I'm controlling the left side for Python. So let's make a function in Python. And to make a function, we'll do def, and then def. We're gonna make an add numbers function. So def add nums, and then here we can place our arguments that we will pass in when we run the function. So we're gonna do a comma b comma c colon, and here we'll just return the sum. So a plus b plus c. So now we will print add nums, and then we can do 5, 10, and then 20, and then it should print 35. And
Bingo.
there we go.
Bingo, wonderful.
So now for Go.
Alright, so heading over to the right hand side of the screen, let me show you how this is done in Go. And let me start out a file here called temp30.go. And unlike Python, which is an interpreted language, Go is a compiled language, and there is a little bit of scaffolding or skeletal code that's needed here. So we'll say package main import format. Format is a package that is useful in formatting, like printing and stuff like that. So, and then the main entry point is a function called main, which doesn't take any arguments. And in this function is where we'll be writing our code. And so what I want to do here is basically just invoke the format package, and then print out like print line, and I want to invoke our function called add numbers, and we'll pass it 3 variables a, b, and c, and it should print out the sum. All right, so let's go ahead and define the function here, and our function is going to be called add nums, and we want 3 arguments here. So the first argument is, let's say it's x, which is of type int, y of type int, and z of type int, and this function is going to return an integer back. So the return type is specified after the function arguments, and you have open and close curly braces, and in here you'll basically just simply return x plus y plus z. So with that, we have the function coded up, and let's give it a whirl. So coming down to the bottom pane here, I'm going to invoke go run temp30.go and give it a whirl here. And so here it's saying undefined a comma b comma c. This is because these variables are not defined yet, right? So let's go ahead and define these variables, and I'm going to say var a, which is of type int, and let's say it's 5, and var b of type int, which is 10, and var c of type int, and that is 11, or rather 20. So with that, let's give it another whirl here, and bingo, now it prints 35. So this is how you write a simple function in Go. So handing it back to my buddy, who will take it to the next item to talk about, which will be lists.
Okay, so now let's do lists. I'm gonna make a list of numbers, so I'm gonna call it numbers equals brackets, and inside these brackets we'll put our numbers. So I'm gonna do 10, 20, 34, 50, and 40. So now that the list is created, we can print it, and we can also loop over it. So for I in numbers, and then we can do print I, which will print out every number.
So, you know what the issue here is? I think you need to have print parenthesis I instead of square brackets. So that's a function call.
Yeah.
So that was a typo. Okay, go ahead. So
there we go.
Excellent.
There we go. It printed every item of the list.
Perfect. So let's head over to the Go side, and let's do the same thing here. So let's do lists here. So now in Go, I'll show you two flavors of lists, or arrays as they are called here. So there are fixed size arrays and there are variable size arrays. So let's do the fixed size arrays first. So the way you declare a fixed size arrays is like this. So you declare the variable, and then you say colon equals, and then you say I'm going to create a fixed size of 5 ints. So that's how you say that, and then this is how you put a literal array there, and we'll put the numbers 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 40. So that's our list numbers, and then let's print out this list here. Print line list nums. So that is our fixed size array of nums, and I'm getting a compile error. The compile error is basically saying syntax error, unexpected square, closing brackets. So if you go back to the code here, you see when I'm declaring this list nums, I started out the array literal with a curly open bracket. So that's how I have to end it. Instead of that, I basically made a typo, and I ended up with a square bracket. So let me fix that. Let's change it to curly closing bracket, and let's give it a whirl here, and bingo. So this is our entire list or array, a fixed size array that's getting printed out. So that's that. Now let's head over and do the so my buddy had shown us how to iterate over the list of numbers in Python. So let me do that here. So we'll iterate it like this in Go. So I'll say for I is 0, I is less than length of list nums, and I plus plus, and I'll have open curly bracket and then close curly bracket, and then format, which is the format package, and I'm going to print line, and in print line I'll pass I. So this should print out each of the items in the list, and let's see what happened. Unexpected colon. Let's see where the unexpected colon is coming in. So we have a semicolon here and a semicolon here for I colon 0. For I, it should be for I colon equal to 0. So instead of I colon 0. So we have a bit of debugging that we are learning right on the spot here. So anyway, so this is how you iterate over the list. For I is 0, I is less than length of the list, and I plus plus, and then you print out each item. So this is the list being printed out with each item on a separate line. So okay, so that's how you do. Well, okay, hold on, sorry. So we are actually printing out the value of I, which is the index. Instead of that, we actually wanted to print the list. So what you have to do is you have to say list nums. And that's how you do the list nums. And let's give it another whirl. All right, so yeah, there you go. So it's 10, 20, 34, 50, and 40. So that's a fixed size list. Now let's do the variable size list now. And for variable size list, we're going to use this concept of slices. So the way you do it is basically you'll say, you'll create a variable slice nums, and we'll invoke a function called make function. It's kind of like a factory, but it will make us a slice. of variable size. So basically we'll say a variable size here. So notice we are not putting in any size inside the square brackets. So we're saying make us a variable size slice of ints and have, let's say we'll have 5 ints with a capacity of 10. So it can grow. Now the variable is basically means that it is going to grow as you add more items. So having done that, let's create another list here. List to nums and colon equals, and let's append, we'll use this function called append, and we'll append the slice nums. And let me append, actually instead of starting with a list of 5, let's start with a list of empty list. So slice nums is an empty list with a capacity of 10, and we're going to append some numbers here, 1, 3, 4 and 5. Let's append these 4 numbers here. So this is how we are creating a variable list, and it is growing. So let me print out this for you. Format.println list to nums. So that's how you print your list, and let's give it a whirl. I'm getting a syntax error here. The syntax error is because I'm using the append function. It's a function. Append is a function. So with a function, you actually don't use curly closing bracket. You use a parenthesis. So open parenthesis, close parenthesis. So that was a minor syntax error there, and bingo. So we have a variable size slice right here. And as I told you, when you're creating this variable size, you don't have to specify the size. That is what makes it variable, and you can add more items to it. All right, so that's enough about arrays. We've covered, I've shown you how to do both fixed size and variable size arrays. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to our buddy here. So he'll take it over, and I believe, what is
We're
it?
doing dictionaries now.
Perfect. Yeah, dictionaries.
Okay, so to start making a dictionary, I'm gonna make a dictionary called names, and then I will do, instead of brackets, we'll do curly brackets, and inside we will put our keys and values. So one key will be John, which is our first name, and then colon, our value, which will be Doe. And then to add another one, we can do comma, and we'll do Phil, and then Jackson. So now that we have our names, we can print them out, and we can also print or the last names using by passing in a key.
Which is the first name?
Yeah, first name. So we can pass in Phil, and it will give us back Jackson.
Perfect. Oh, I see. So that's how you create dictionaries. And actually, dictionaries are kind of like hashes or maps in other languages. So specifically, let's go back to the right-hand side of the screen, and we'll talk about how dictionaries in Python are implemented over in Go. So here, we don't call them dictionaries, we call them maps, right? So how you create a map is basically you create, let me create a map called names. And when I create this, I'm going to create a local variable called names. So this is how you say colon equals. And again, I'm going to use this make function here. And the make function I'm going to call a map. So make me a map of which will take the key type as string, and it'll the value type is also string. So it is a map of strings to strings. So it is mapping basically a string to a string. So that's a map, and that's how you create your names. And once you have that, then all you have to do is just basically you'll say names and double quotes. What did you have? You had John, and you would say John, and the last name is Doe. And let's put in another item in our map, Phil and Jackson. So these are the two items in a dictionary or map. And once we have that, let's just go ahead and print out the entire map, which is basically our names. And let's print this out, save it and print it out here, go run, and the file name, and bingo. So here's a map or a dictionary. John maps to Doe and Phil maps to Jackson. So that's how you print the entire dictionary or entire map. And to print just one, you of course would say something like this. You would say John and so John, and then we can do concatenation. John concatenates to and I'll say names, and I'll say John. So there you go. Let's just print this out. And bingo. So the first name is John, and John is the key value that maps into the last name Doe. So that's how maps are done in Go. All right, handing it back to my buddy here, who will go over the last item of the day, which is classes. All right.
Okay, so let's start by making a class dog. So class dog, and then colon, and then I'm gonna make a construction function in it, and I will put self. So in every method of a class in Python, you gotta make sure you have self as one of the parameters, and self just points to the object. And in the init function, I will make some attributes of our objects. Self.legs will equal legs. Self.eyes will equal eyes. And
I see. Okay. So legs and eyes are basically the values that you'll pass into the constructor.
Yeah.
When you create an object.
So I'm also gonna make a bark method. And we won't need any arguments for this.
But you still need the self.
Oh yeah. Forgot about that.
So self is basically like this pointer in other languages like C++. It points to the object. Oh, it's in JavaScript also?
Yeah.
I see. Pretty cool.
And here we could just do print bark. So now we're gonna make an object. So we could do dog1 equals dog. And then here we'll do 4 legs with blue eyes.
Actually, eyes is, what is it? Do we care about the type? Oh no, actually this is fine. Yeah. Eyes could be a string here, which is fine, yeah.
So we can now do print out our attributes.
Yeah.
So dog.eyes. And we can also do the bark method.
Perfect. So that's how you declare classes, and that's how you create objects of those classes and invoke the methods of those objects. Perfect. All right, let's head over to the right hand side of the screen, and let's implement the same thing in Go. But right off the bat, let me tell you one thing. We don't have anything called a class in Go, but we do have structs. So actually, before we had classes come on board in C++, in C we used to have things called structures or structs, and they used to have a lot of data members. And so let me start out with structs here, and let me show you how the same thing is done here. So what we'll do is, and then the other thing I want to also point out is that when you create a struct, you want to create it outside the class here. So let me split up the screen into 2 pieces, into 2 parts. The first is the part above. So in the pane on the above, I'm going to create a struct here. Let me create a struct called. So I'll say this is how you create a struct. You say type dog struct, and then here basically you'll say you'll put in the data members. So data members are eyes would be an integer, and legs. Well, what did you have? You had legs and eyes. Actually, it doesn't matter. It's fine. We just have like, okay, we have eyes and legs. That's 2 integers in my case. Okay, so that's that. And so the way you declare methods is a little different here. So what you do is you basically create a function, and you create a receiver here. So this is called a receiver. So d star dog, which is basically a dereference pointer. Small d is a pointer to a dog. So you create this receiver code, and then you'll create a bark method. And in the bark method is basically we'll sort of print out, we'll print bow, or rather bark is what you have, right?
Yeah.
So let's do that. So this is how you create a function, but this function is different in the sense that this function is not a global function. It is a function that belongs to the struct called dog. So it is like a method. It belongs to that struct. It is not outside of dog. All right, so having done that, let's head over to the bottom pane, back inside the main function, and let me go down here, and let's create an object now. So we'll create an object from that structure, and the way you create is basically you'll say variable dog1, and you'll instantiate it off the dog class or dog struct, and you'll say eyes are, it has 2 eyes and it has 4 legs, and once you do that, and then you want to dog1 dot bark. So this is how you invoke the method, and let's give it a whirl, and we are getting an error, unexpected colon, or line 50. Let's go and debug this real quick. So this is dog1 colon equals dog, and eyes colon 2, and legs colon 4. So the error is basically, it's a syntax error. Instead of saying parentheses, we have to use curly brackets. So let me use the open and close curly brackets here. So that's how you create an object, and bingo. So there you go. It prints out bark bark. So that's how I've shown you. That's how you create a class equivalent in Go. There's no classes, but you create an equivalent code using structs, and this is how you create methods inside the class, and this is how you invoke the constructor and create an object and invoke a method of that object. So with that, I believe we come to the end of our live session today.
Yeah, we're done.
And hope you all found this useful. Just to sum it up, we covered functions, lists or arrays, both fixed and variable size. We covered maps or dictionaries, and we covered classes and structs. And with that, thank you all. Till next time, ciao.